The market square had become Mona's kingdom. Not one made of palaces or high walls, but one of vibrant cloth and carefully stacked looms, colors and patterns flowing like water over the dusty wooden tables. She moved through her store with quiet determination, arranging freshly woven textiles, smoothing stray threads, and humming a song she had learned from her mother. It was no small thing, and her fingers were still stiff from hours at the loom, but she had learned that patience was a weaver's greatest virtue. By the end of the first month, her store began to attract attention. Word of her skills spread through the market square, reaching the ears of traders from nearby villages and towns. Chiefs and even minor nobles began to inquire about her cloth. Orders grew. She had never imagined such a thing was possible for her. A clumsy girl, laughed at for breaking her pot, now sought after for her art. Yet, with success came jealousy. The other young women, the same ones who had mocked her during the festival of clay, began whispering behind her back, spreading rumors about her relationship with her customers. She must have used some charm, they eased to one another one day in the market. Why else would she suddenly attract so many customers? Mona had snippets of their laughter, caught fragments of cruel words, and her hands clenched around the edge of a loom. For a moment, her anger fled, but it quickly gave way to the sadness and shame she had felt when she had broken her water pots. It was during one such morning that she first heard the rumors about Mazi Chike, the wealthy merchant who had recently arrived in Zarama. Two women approached her store to buy some cloth, gossip spilling with each word. "He's arrived from the western trade routes," one said, eyes darting around as if afraid he might appear. "Tall, handsome and rich. He's said to own ships, horses and gold beyond counting. Every woman in the kingdom wants a chance with him," the other added, fanning herself with a handkerchief. "Even mothers are introducing their daughters. You've probably heard, haven't you?" But Mona smiled politely, focusing on her weaving. "I'm sure he's remarkable," she said, shrugging, "but I have work to do." She barely thought about it again until the next morning, when the market stirred in a way that made her chest beat faster. A hush fell over the crowd as a tall man walked toward her stall. He was taller than most men, with light brown skin that glimmered in the sun and a confident stride that made heads turn. Women whispered, glancing at him furtively, their eyes wide open with awe. The man stopped in front of her stall, picked up one of her finely woven cloths, turning it over in his hands. "Who made this?" His voice was calm but firm, carrying easily across the murmuring crowd. Mona stepped forward, her heart beating in her chest. "I did," she said, keeping her voice steady, but her hands shook. The man studied her for a moment, and she felt his gaze linger, not leering but curious and attentive. For a heartbeat, the world fell away, the market noise faded, and she could feel the warmth of his eyes on her, and noticed the way he held her work as though it were a treasure. "I am Mazi Chike," he said, smiling, not the proud, arrogant smile of a wealthy man, but a gentle, considerate one. "I trade with kings, merchants, and diplomats, but today I wish to trade with the weaver of Zarama." Mona's lips parted and she almost laughed at the absurdity of it. "He actually wants to trade with me?" Her hands instinctively smoothed the clothes she had placed before him. "Yes," she said finally, "I am the weaver of Zarama. You can see the rest of my work over here." Mazi leaned closer, examining the pieces with genuine interest. "These are remarkable. You do not just weave thread, you weave stories. The colors and the patterns, they speak. Mona's chest swelled with a mixture of pride and disbelief. She had never expected anyone to notice her work in this way, let alone someone of his reputation. Her clumsy past, her broken pots, all of it seemed distant, almost irrelevant in the face of this moment. The merchant extended his hand. Perhaps we could discuss this further. I have clients, friends in distant towns, even nobles and kings who would admire your work. You could sell far beyond Zarama. Mona looked at his hand, hesitated, then shook it. I would like that, she said. With Mazi Chike's partnership, Mona was able to expand her business and soon they developed a friendly rapport as business partners. He would come to her store to buy all her newest clothes and place new orders, full of praises for her talent and skills that made Mona blush and laugh. For the first time in years, Mona felt a spark of hope, not just for wealth or recognition, but for the idea that her life could belong to her own hands. And as she watched Mazi Chike move through the store, examining her other pieces and smiling with genuine appreciation, Mona realized that the broken pot was no longer the measure of her worth. She was finally stepping into a life she would shape herself, but unknown to Mona, dark clouds of jealousy and trouble already gathered on the horizon as her newfound success and happiness would bring trouble. The first signs came quietly, like a rumor crawling through the dust. At first, it was the way people's laughter dimmed when Mona passed by in the market. Then came the whispers that seemed to travel faster than the harmattan wind. Fragments of sentences carried by women with sharp eyes and even sharper tongues. She thinks she's better than us now. Imagine, the pot breaker turned merchant queen. Without that man's money, she would still be crying at her mother's hut. But Mona ignored them all, or tried to. She told herself that words couldn't undo hard work, and that every insult was simply noise, meaningless chatter from those who had not seen her sleepless nights or her calloused fingers. But words were seeds, and seeds grew fast in Zarama's soil. By the end of the month, the whispers had turned to open hostility. Some customers stopped coming, others haggled cruelly, pretending her clothes had lost its quality. Once, a woman dropped one of Mona's finest fabrics into the dirt and sneered, "Perhaps you wove this one with your charms, not your hands." Mona's heart clenched painfully, but she had simply smiled, picked up the cloth and dusted it off. Pride was a fragile thing, and she would not let them see her as crack. Still, when she returned home that evening, her smile dissolved. She sat on the mat long after her mother had gone to sleep, staring at her fingers. Those same fingers that once failed to hold a clay pot steady. Now they wove beauty, yet the world still found ways to bruise her. "I will not stop," she whispered into the quiet night. "If they hate me, let them. I will still rise." The attack came 2 nights later. It began with the sound of footsteps, too many, too close, then a crash. Mona jerked awake in a small back room where she sometimes slept to guard her goods. Her first thought was that she was dreaming, that the thunder outside was only a storm breaking. But then came the unmistakable sound of wood splintering. Her looms. She sprang to her feet, her heart pounding, and peered through the thin slit in the door. Shadows moved across the moonlit shop floor. 4, maybe 5 men. One of them kicked over a basket of dyed thread, and another struck a loom with a club. "Burn it," a voice hissed. "Let her see what happens when she forgets her place." Mona froze, her breath caught in her throat. She could see her entire world, her fabrics, her tools, her dreams being destroyed in front of her. Then the door creaked. The nearest dog had seen the flicker of her movement. He grinned, a cruel yellow-toothed smile, and lunged forward. Mona ran. The shop was small, but she knew every corner, every loose board. She darted toward the front, but one man blocked her path. His arm caught her shawl, jerking her backward. She screamed, twisting and clawing, her nails catching at his wrist. But the man sneered at her attempts to fight and escape, raising his hand to strike her into submission when suddenly a blur of motion burst through the shop, and the sound of hooves on hard earth were followed by the gleam of torches and the heavy thud of something striking the man in the face.